Yes, there's two of me in this video, the shadow and the light of a Gemini. I'm going to give you a forecast for the week here of August 3rd. We go to the 6th, and Mars, the planet of impulse, instinct, survival, war, taking action and initiating. It's been in the sign of Virgo for a while now, and all of you with Virgo placements, Virgo rising, Virgo 7th house, planets in Virgo, you have had a story playing out here of elimination possibly, or of confrontation, a magnified version of the details and getting to the nitty-gritty of things, for better or worse, depending on your Virgo placements. Okay, so we do have to acknowledge this, because part of what happened to Virgo placements in the Virgo part of your chart, a wanting of cleansing, of purging, of elimination, or overthinking, over mercurial stimulation. The planet Mercury, which rules Virgo, has been retrograde. So this isn't the easiest times to maneuver for Virgo placement. You're at the last couple days, and it will finally leave your sign, Mars, here on Wednesday the 6th, when it goes into Libra. One final note on the Virgo thing. We get towards the end of August, we're going to have a new moon at 0 degrees Virgo. We're going to go into eclipses in September that affect you, and we're going to do another new moon in Virgo 30 days later after the 1st. This is rare stuff here, Virgos and Pisces people. You have a continuation of a story here, of an eclipse story that started in the spring that will culminate in September. Enough of that. Let's go to Mars and Libra here on August 6th. Mars traditionally doesn't flow well in Libra, because Mars wants to act quickly, impulsively, without thinking. Libra is not going to make those types of decisions. Libra contemplates and weighs things out and tries to balance things and wants to harmonize, right? So Mars is pushing the harmonization game here, but it sort of doesn't feel right in that sign. It doesn't say it can't be worked with, but everything Libra deals with negotiation, consideration of others' narratives, their thoughts and opinions, and wanting everyone to have a say, Libra cannot help but facilitate, right? Hence, sometimes there's hard decision making that's involved, because they can see the different sides of everything. Aries, on the other hand, doesn't think twice about making decisions. They're putting themselves first. Libra is going to consider themselves, but mostly everybody first, before they end up back to themselves. Mars is going to push this narrative here for the next month. And what's interesting thing is right after Mars enters Libra, it starts a quick story and almost a confrontation with Saturn and Aries at early degrees, and Neptune. Now, some of you who watch my reels or whatever know that last week Venus in Cancer was challenged by Saturn and Neptune and Aries, like two cardinal signs basically. Now Mars is in the game, so we had Venus do this, Mars. So whenever you hear Venus and Mars that are involved in something, the first thing you're going to think is love and war and relationships in general, relating. And since Libra is all about relating, right, it's a big part of this week, and I think the next several weeks. Okay, so as a reminder, Mars initiates through Libra this week in relating and weighing things out on August 6th at 4:23 p.m. Pacific. Interestingly enough, it's on the Thursday, the next day, that at 6:18 p.m. Pacific, and thanks for dealing with the noise in the background, that the moon goes into another air sign, Aquarius. And we have a moment here on Thursday and Friday, for those in different parts of the world where I happen to be right now, where we will have massive grand air trine for so many hours. I'll get to that in a second. Moon will go into Aquarius on Thursday, and Mars is slowly moving to connect, waxing towards that 180-degree confrontation with Saturn and Aries. But before we even get there, we have the moon in Aquarius, moon in Libra, or excuse me, Mars in Libra, and we have Uranus, which has been in the sign of Gemini. They're all in early degrees, 0 and 1 degrees on Thursday, and hence we have a grand air trine that happens. They're 120-degree aspect with each other, and it creates a symbiotic flow between the three signs, moon in Aquarius, of how we deal with our emotional needs. It's more of a mental process and more of a separation of needing freedom and space and to create their autonomy emotionally, right? And then you have Mars and Libra pushing the relating and the harmonization in all types of relationships. It's not just with people, it's with the world, basically, right? And then you have Uranus and Gemini. Uranus, the liberator, the rebel planet that entered Gemini not too long ago, and it's feeding its electrical, unpredictable lightning bolt in the sign of Gemini, ruled by the mind and Mercury, and hence you have a massive mental mind stimulation here where things flow. This is rare business for any of you that have air planets and air signs at 0-1 degree, or you have fire signs in this. This is a huge, amazing day. There could be shocking ideas that come in, and these ideas transfer to how one relates to the universe, right? You can have these things. And the interesting, amazing thing about this is because of the degrees of 0 and 1 in air and in fire, this is a place that will become fundamental next year, earlier in the year, and for the whole rest of 2026, because as you know, we're finally going to have Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, all at these early degrees of air and fire. We're going to start to see the fundamental changes in the world and society, is how we relate in communities, how we communicate, new technologies, new ideas, alternative ways of engaging in the world, and new eras starting to really show themselves in your personal life and as communities in the world. And so when we have little aspects like this week, it's a foreshadowing to that place. For me, I have placements in these air signs at these early degrees. I can tell you that my world in the last month has been completely turned upside down, and for better or worse, but I'm thinking better. And when you deal with sudden changes like Uranus brings, or insights that you download through your mind, it sometimes, some of us might have a resistance to something that can be new because we're in older, rooted, habitual places that might have worked in the past, but maybe they're not working anymore. And sometimes it takes a sudden idea, right? A different viewpoint, a different angle to look at something, to bring something new in our lives. I am embracing this 100% in my life. I'm putting full trust and letting the winds guide me. And I suggest the same to you if you can find it in the Aquarius, Libra, and Gemini parts of your chart, that this week is an idea drop, an inspirational drop, right? Something that could give you a mental spark. Seems like a lot for one day here on the 7th, but it's sitting there waiting for you, and it's good, because the next day when we get into the 8th on the Friday at 11:45 a.m., Mars in Libra will have its exact trine with Uranus. Think about this. Mars is pushing here and initiating, right? And Uranus is electrical. When Mars and Uranus get together, anything can happen, right? It's like forcing a lightning bolt of surprise in life, liberation of some sorts, enacting freedom and autonomy of the mind. That happens 11:45 a.m. on Friday, but it's several hours later at 7:52. At the same time, Mars in Libra, another air sign, connects with all that, the grand trine the day before with Uranus earlier in the day, but it has to deal with pure reality, because Saturn in Aries is opposite Mars in Libra. This is called an opposition, and it's a confrontation. And since Libra wants to push and harmonize relationships, it's in what way? Is it an argument with Saturn and Aries? Mind you, Saturn and Aries is ruled by Mars, so this is an interesting relational thing that's happening here. I could see lots of arguments and difference of opinion, where one is like Mars and Libra trying to come across softly in their way with a negotiation, and Saturn and Aries is holed up in their cave and staunch about how they would even relate to anybody, because they're too busy in their contemplative cave thinking about the spiritual quest that they are on, right, for the next 2.5 years. And here comes Mars and Libra, like, talk to me. And it just depends on who you are and what your story is, whether this can happen. I think the thing is one has to recognize a conversation or a relational situation for what it is. and to not push an agenda, even if you were supposedly coming across in a harmonious way, that you're not manipulative in that confrontation or argument or negotiation. Even Libra, they're master manipulators at times. They just come across with softness and tact and charm and style, but there's an agenda behind it, right? And Saturn and Aries can see right through that agenda and will call them out. And then all of a sudden, the other side's like, what are you, who, me? I'm not trying to do that. Or the other end of it is Saturn and Aries is staunch where they are and are not willing to open up to relating in general. And here comes Mars and Libra trying to find a way to connect. Like, hey, we need each other. We have to build something in the future together. Let's just have a conversation that's not caustic. Now, that's my idealistic way of looking at a transit like this. We don't want to push things. The biggest thing is we want to allow a lot of space and air. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, moon's going to be Aquarius. We need a lot of air and space for the thinking, the freedom in that. We come back to the table and talk. We step away. We listen. We come back to the table, reply. We try not to get caught up in quick, super impulsive thinking and pushing the agenda, okay? So that is my view of this. I also want to say that since, you know, the next day on the 9th, Mars is also officially opposing Neptune. Again, this could be like there's illusions involved in the communication and all that. Now, let me stop right here. Because basically, when we hit August 9th at 12:55 a.m. Pacific, in the middle of the story I've been telling you, let's just throw in a full moon in Aquarius. Well, why don't we throw this in there, right? So first of all, we have a narrative that was started 2 weeks ago when we had the new moon in Leo happen at 2-3 degrees. Remember, Pluto in Aquarius, air sign, was opposite the new moon. And we had to deal with the power struggle or confrontation that Pluto brought to the Leo world about Leo me and about Pluto and Aquarius we. And how does one stand individually within the we? And is there a way to balance those two things? This is part of a greater narrative we're going to deal with in the next couple of years in the world, right? And here we are 2 weeks later with the full moon in Aquarius. And now the moon staunchly needs its freedom in Aquarius. Trust me on this one. I live this life every day. Is basically wanting that autonomy and creativity within the whole. And can you do that? So it's a continuation of the story. At the same time, there's Mars opposite Saturn and Neptune that I talked about. So I think it's very important, if you were to take something simple, going into this week, Mars action week, air, and we get to a full moon that's in air, that you recognize space and utilize space and autonomy. And if it is balanced that way, that is where one or the whole can accept difference of opinion, different ideas, which lead to new ways of integrating oneself in the world or within community, Aquarius, where one is still has their freedom and autonomy but doesn't get lost in the group, but you're able to accept each other's differences. Had to wait for that to happen. Accept each other's differences and then move forward into a new era. This, again, in my opinion, goes into the theme of what's going to happen in the world here for the next several years, and for the Uranus and Gemini transit for 7 years, for the Pluto and Aquarius transit for 20 years, right? It's how we relate socially and the ideas and the progression to move forward. The other part of looking at this full moon is Aquarius is a fixed sign that can be extremely stubborn and dogmatic. It could be like the guru who has all the answers and it's the only answer. Even though it sounds like new language and talk, it's still dogmatic, right? It's a Saturnian-based sign, Aquarius. It's ruled by Saturn. And here's Saturn currently in Aries, being challenged by Mars and Libra. Again, you know, it's how one is relating to themselves and to the world. The secret thing building behind all of this week is Venus and Jupiter. Venus being in the sign of Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer, slowly this week in the background and even in the sky, Venus is moving towards its rendezvous orgasmic connection with Jupiter and Cancer. And when you have the two benefics like this, this is to me the oasis part of the transit, as in the go-to place where one can hopefully have a sense of home when they're debating or contemplating their relation to the world and other people and what is happening with all the air. It's great to have the airflow, but sometimes when you're too much in air, which could happen this week, and if it is argumentative, the clashing of ideas of what's next, for instance, what happens when we are stuck up here? We start to feel things, and if we cannot put a word to what we're feeling, then everything is unbalanced. Where do we go for feeling? And Venus in Cancer and Jupiter in Cancer are where we go to find our home, the place that gives us safety and security. And that is a place we can recognize what we're feeling or come to feeling, or to nurture ourselves or other people. In the end, it's a very relational story in general. Family, security, where we come from, Cancer, where we find safety, how we take the traditions from the past and do we keep them moving forward in lineages, country, community, family, how we relate in those places. I'm in my tribe, you're in your tribe. What if we met at the border and we had to have the negotiation this week that we were talking about? Is it caustic and combative, or is it, stable and grounded and not caustic? I'm just giving you examples of how this can play out. If you need the oasis, remember Venus and Jupiter are there for you. And it's coming up early next week where we have the conjunction in the sky that many in the astrology world have been talking about this whole year. It is pretty magical, I will say. When it comes to Jupiter and Venus, wishes you can wish upon and you can envision, but you can't get lazy. And if you're doing this type of work and envisioning, and finding inspiration there, you have to follow through with the steps. It's not like trying to play the lottery and winning. The odds are huge. It's more about acknowledging where you come from or where you want to go, coming from a loving, compassionate place. When Jupiter and Venus get together, it's very empathetic. Start with being empathetic to yourself. And if you can bring that in other situations with other people and communities, then it's there with the communicating in air and the connection with water and emotions empathetically. You could find some cool stuff and build upon that. Again, a very idealistic forecast for the week. I see a lot of arguments, to be honest. I'm not going to go that way. I'm not. 6 months ago, I was traveling where I am right now, and I think about what has happened to me then in those moments, and the beautiful moments and memories and the people that I met and the personal experiences I had, people that I cared for or with, and things like that in a sense change. But the premise behind it all, the underlying foundation of love and compassion and empathy is there for me. And I'm here again, back in these same places. Some things have changed, but the way I'm viewing the world and people that I've met or that I care for, that's not changed. How you communicate and how you can care and feed changes, but it all comes from the same place of love and compassion, right? And we need that more than ever these days. As I was riding a train today, that's what I was thinking about. How do I talk about Mars and Libra? How do I talk about the transits this week? They're hard for some of them, but for me, I was like, you know what? I'm sticking to the mantra of this channel. I'm sticking to the future of this channel. I'm sticking to my future. It's not just a job for me. This is my life. My opinion of astrology and what it is, it incorporates my own personal experience and my relation to the world and to you watching not just my Patreon members, channel members, you stranger watching me. It's not separate. So I'm doubling down again, and I'm tripling down again when it comes to visualizing or envisioning harmony backed with empathy, possibly grounded communication, and listening. It's not perfect, and I'm not saying there's no work to do and there's no challenges to deal with. But if I am standing in this place, it gives myself and anybody I'm relating to a better chance of connecting, even when the world seems like it's collapsing, where you're seeing what is given more time by the news sources or other people is drama and caustic rhetoric. Sometimes it's very simple about the world and the palettes and the emotions, and you just gotta look at the colors in your mind and in your heart. Didn't know I was gonna end the video that way. I'm traveling. I've got some interviews I did in the last 48 hours that are pretty good for my 3 questions thing. Again, I want to thank everybody that supports me and my dream of doing this and my version of astrology and what I have planned for myself and for whatever downloads that I come with and exchange with you. And if it helps in any kind of way, you know, like I'm doing what the gods and goddesses bid me to do. I'm just saying yes to whatever comes my way. And when there's a challenge or resistance and I notice it within myself, can I come to a place how I relate to myself and the world and say yes to it? Like, yes, I'm scared to do that, but I'll figure it out. Help me out. Like, help me do this. Or the things that come really easily. I'm like, yes. Did I make a video this time? And did one person watch this? And did they find something inspiring in there and it turned their day around, or it gave them a little bit of a different viewpoint of how to engage in their own lives? Yes, like, I think I did it. Even if it's you, like one person, you know. Fortunate to do this, and I'm fortunate for this moment in the sunset, you know. All right, so that's what's up on this week. Another weird video from my end. I got some other things I have to edit with these interviews that I'm doing, and I might pop in with another quick couple videos later in the week if I have more insights on the full moon. I might do that on my reels or something. This full moon is directly hitting my chart. My life is changing again. And I have a bunch of Aquarius in my chart, and so you got to recognize, if you're living the Aquarius part of your life, that you have to come to terms with what it means to walk alone in the world. But it doesn't mean you're separate from the world. It's embracing your individuality, your uniqueness, and your wildness. And then you find the people that understand that, right? Who connect with that. That's what's happening to me again. Old worlds change and new ones come. And I'm just saying yes. So say yes to this week. I hope you have a great week. And we'll talk on the next video.